back! Did you miss me? The conclusion of this is actually quite terrifying. Alright, so... Where are we? Where are we, my loves? Oh, here we are. Okay, so let me be your leader. A world where men and women would be equal is easy to imagine because it is exactly the one the Soviet Revolution promised. Now, I did not know anything about this, but they wanted women to be raised, educated exactly like men, work under the same conditions, for the same salaries, erotic freedom would be accepted, the sexual act would no longer be considered a remunerable service. Women would be obliged to provide another livelihood for themselves, so they would be obliged to work. Marriage would be based on a free engagement that they could break when they wanted to. Motherhood would be freely chosen. So, kind of how it is nowadays. Abortion would be allowed. All mothers and their children would be given the same rights. Maternity leave would be paid for. So everything that's on this list, we have already, right? We are at that stage. So that's it. Is it enough to change laws, institutions, customs, public opinion, and the whole social context for men and women to really become peers? That's a lot of stuff. So I would say maybe that's kind of enough, but then how do you change public opinion and social context? We certainly haven't changed that. But then she says, the skeptics say that women will always be women. But for the people who say that, I respond, this would mean that today's woman is nature's creation, and it must be repeated again that within the human collectivity, nothing is natural, and woman is a product developed by civilization. This is really important, because we talk superficially about how are men raised, are women raised, and that's as far as the conversation goes. And that's not enough. You know, of course, being a woman is not natural. I mean, of course, biologically, we must have some differences, I guess, but it's impossible to determine given the world that we live in, and even given our genes. You know, they have been developed through so many years where women were inferior that it's even probably in our genes. And even that is circumstantial because those genes have been conditioned by all these centuries and centuries of women being oppressed. So even there, even if you say that yes, biologically there is a difference, that could even have been modified by the behavioral patterns. So nothing is natural, full stop. Everything is a product in humankind, in society especially. Everything is political. The woman is a product developed by civilization, the intervention of others in her destiny. If this process were driven in another way, it would produce a very different result, and I agree. Woman is defined neither by her hormones nor by mysterious instincts, but by the way she grasps through her consciousness, her body, and her relation to the world. The abyss that separates adolescent girls from adolescent boys was purposely dug out from early infancy. So woman is conditioned, really. That's what we're trying to say here. Until it brings about the moral, social, and cultural consequences it requires, the new woman cannot appear. As of now, these consequences have been realized nowhere. I think there's a little bit more of a development now, but I still think that we don't have that many consequences. Hell, even this discourse is not even talked about yet. I mean, when are we going to start talking about it? In public, in the media, in like the obvious places, not just in books that nobody reads, not just in essays that you have to look for in the library, not just in talks that nobody goes to. I want this stuff to be said in dumb terms. I want this stuff to be said in a way that even the stupidest person who has never read a newspaper in their lives can hear about it. That's where we have to get to. Until we get there, we can't even start to change. We don't know what we're changing. Do you see the kind of things that people are talking about? Do you see the kind of movements that women are getting together to defend? I just don't even... It's like, what is this? A photo shoot? Another photo shoot? I know I've said this before, but I'm tired of seeing photo shoots of models looking beautiful, saying that they're doing it for female empowerment. I mean, it means nothing. It brings nothing. There's no argument. At most, they will say that we are equal, but we're not. Like, can we actually talk about these things? I don't know. I just don't understand. Today's woman is torn between the past and the present. She appears as a real woman disguised as a man, and she feels as awkward in her woman's body as in her masculine garb. So true. It's like we're pretending to be men and we're not quite there. She has to shed her own skin and cut her own clothes. It's a collective change. You can't just make it happen. No one can shape a female human being that is equal to the male human being. If she's raised like a boy, the girl feels that she is an exception, and that subjects her to a new kind of specification. So it's not the answer to be raised equally even. It's not enough. To be raised like a boy is not the answer, because we're not boys. What are we? That's the problem. We don't know what we are. We've been told what we are, but if we don't want to accept that, then how are we going to build, how are we going to shape what we are? It's very clear to me that this has to happen so slowly, but I just feel like until we understand that, we can't even begin. I don't even know how it's happening without people understanding this stuff. If from the earliest age, the little girl were raised with the same demands and honors, that's how you raise somebody. Not by doing the same things, but in this way, with the same demands, the same honors, the same severity, the same freedom as boys, taking part in the same studies and games, promised the same future. Does anybody talk to little boys about when they're gonna get married? Do you realize just how much something so simple can shape you? Who are you gonna get? When are you gonna be a mother? Does anybody ever ask a little boy when are they gonna be a father? Of course that makes a difference. How could it not? If this little girl was surrounded by women and men who are unambiguously equal to her, so it's not only the one that's being raised, but what she sees, the examples that she sees around her in the world. The castration complex and the Oedipus complex would be profoundly modified. So all of these psychological assumptions and scientific studies about how women are, all of that is also dependent on the situation, and all of that would be modified if women were raised differently and were seeing a different history. The mother would enjoy the same lasting prestige as the father if she assumed equal material and moral responsibility for the couple. The child would feel an androgynous world around her and not a masculine world. Because at the end of the day, even if you've been raised exactly the same, with all of the same honors and demands and freedoms, even then, if the world around you is a world of men, then it's not a world of women. That in itself is gonna condition you. So it's just, we are bombarded on all sides by conditioning. The boy would not have a natural superiority complex if it were not instilled in him, and if he held women in the same esteem as men. The little girl would not seek sterile compensations in narcissism and dreams. She would think about the value of her life.